Good morrow, my lovely little ghosts, and welcome to the Dark Orchard. I'm Laura, and this is a video about the outside. As I said in my intro, this video is about the outside. More specifically, the zoo. That's right, I actually went outside during the pandemic. A friend convinced me to go to the North Carolina Zoo when it first reopened. Okay, so let me set the timeline for you. It was before the mandatory mask mandate for North Carolina, but it was after phase 2 had started. So it was kind of like in the middle of all of that, all of those decisions. And the zoo reopened with their safety precautions. And a friend of mine who knew that I hadn't left the house since March decided that she wanted me to go to the zoo with her to get out of the house, which was probably a really good idea, but at the same time, it was dangerous. So, what's it like to go to a zoo during a pandemic? Well, honestly, it's absolute heaven for someone who doesn't like crowds to start with. The best part is the lack of people. It wasn't that it was completely empty or anything, like there were still people there. It's not as many as you'd see on a normal pre-pandemic kind of day. It has been right at 3 weeks since we went. About a week after we went, they dropped the mandatory mask mandate into effect, which would have probably made the experience a little bit better. People are people, people will people, and people do people. So, it's very people-y. Visiting the zoo is actually one of my favorite things to do. I like the walk. I like getting my exercise. I had new shoes, which was a problem. Should not have worn new shoes, but, you know, it was out of quarantine for the first time in a long time, and I just didn't think properly. I was like, I just want to look cute, so I wore new shoes. Not a good idea. But it's not like I killed my feet, so it was fine. So without further delay, let's jump into the actual experience of going to the zoo and what things were different. I'll be popping in some footage every now and then when it's relevant. So walking up, they have the standard footprints, and they also had markings that were like stand here, stand here, stand here, all 6 feet apart, the standard like social distancing markers.
10:30 right through here. If you have a question or need assistance during your visit today, you can ask any zoo team member. We can't wait to see you inside.
Hi. Yeah, 10:30.
For the zoo, you have to pre-order your ticket and schedule your entry time. I believe they said it's up to 50 people for each 30-minute time slot. So you go in 30 minutes, they wait a little while, they send the next person in until your 30-minute time slot is filled up. And then they go to the next one. Because with the zoo, it's basically a big loop. So if you start at the entrance and you go all the way around, you never really come in contact with people that are crossing your path until the very end of your zoo journey. In theory, that is. The theory with that, of course, goes along with if people keep the same pace and people don't rush to different exhibits and people don't crowd. So, again, they're expecting people to think, which is not always the best thing to do, because people don't think. People. Because you register online and you pick your spot and you pick your time, when you show up for that time, you get into your line, follow the distancing markers, and then they digitally scan you in. Both of my ticket both of our tickets were on Sarah's phone, and she just kind of scanned it, swiped it, scanned it, and then we were in.
Hi. Good. How are you? And then here's number 2. Thank you, dear. Thank you.
I wasn't so sure that I was gonna like the experience. I should add we wore our masks like the whole time. And before I get into the full in the zoo experience, let me talk about the things that I took with me. I carried my waist bag. This is my favorite waist bag. It's black iridescent. Love it. Looks like an oil spill. So I also attached my vlogging camera to the strap. This also has a back pocket, which is where I kept my card. I only took card. I did not take cash, because like cash is sort of a thing of the past right now. Everywhere is requiring paperless everything, so took my card. So inside of my little sack, hand sanitizer. This is watermelon scented. I love it. My absolute favorite hand sanitizer right now, watermelon scented, because I love the smell of watermelon. Then a spray hand sanitizer. I use this for mostly surfaces like my phone case, you know, just like different surfaces, or if I just want a quick spritz, I've got the spray. Band-aids, which I ended up needing because of the shoes, but always carry band-aids with me. A snack that I didn't need but was glad I had. A shopping bag, just in case I needed to put my stuff in a separate bag, like if my bag broke or something, I had a backup. These are little finger protectors, just in case I had to swipe my card for something. I could put the 2 finger protectors on and swipe it or touch the screen with it, and it'd work just like a glove, except they're just for your fingertips. I took about 10 different baggies just in case, but what the baggies were actually for was for me to put my masks in it when I got done with one mask and wanted to change it out. I took 3 different masks and I took an ear saver. And this ear saver is one of my favorites. It says, "As you wish." Like the Princess Bride. Super cute. I got it from an Etsy store that was doing like movie themed sayings on ear savers. And "As you wish" was just the cutest one for me. But looking back at it, it might seem very like compliant. And the anti-maskers were probably like, "As you wish," and she's wearing a mask. But anyway, I thought it was cute. I got the joke. I'm cultured. They're probably not. They probably don't know what Princess Bride is. So it was sort of an inside joke for the people that are actually informed. Clorox wipes. Because you never know when you're going to have to wipe down a bench or a specific surface or a railing or your friend's backpack. And to be perfectly honest, these are things that I would have carried before the pandemic. I've just become even more germ conscious now that there's a pandemic. For example, I just sanitized my hands because my hands now feel dirty because I touched something that was outside literally 3 weeks ago now. My hands are doing this, and they always do that when they feel dirty. So I might have to like dip out of here and wash my hands and come back. I'm actually going to do that. I'll be right back. I feel better. Anyway, yeah. So I was always germ conscious, but now it's just like germs. But we won't go into that. We won't go into how extremely obsessive I am with having my hands clean. Instead, let's talk about ear savers, because ear savers are something that some people just don't seem to know about. Ear savers are these cute little plastic things that go on the back of your mask. And I don't have a mask in here, but I have one right outside the door. Hold on. Mask. So, ear savers. You take your mask. You put one part of it here, and then put it on. And then hook it behind you. Very, very simple. It just hooks in. And then it sits on the back of your neck like this. And then it sits on the back of your neck like this instead of hurting your ears. If you've worn masks for an extended amount of time, you know how painful it is to wear a mask on your earlobes, like on the backs of your ears. It hurts over time. But I've actually found out that these are not the most comfortable ear savers. I also have these. Let me put it there. This ear saver is a little bit better because it curves in, but the best ear saver that I have is actually one that I've had before the pandemic, and that is this one. Can you see that? I'll put it up close in a second. But this one, you can either hook it in here and here, or you can hook it in here and here, which is where I put mine. And this one does not get tangled in your hair. Mostly this one gets really tangled in your hair. But ones like these, if they're rounded, they don't get stuck in your hair as much. So if your hair is likely to tangle like mine is, you might want to go for a rounded ear saver. This one's actually so adorable. It has Ghostface on it. Look at Ghostface protecting my ears. I love it. So, ear savers, best thing ever, especially if you're going to be outside wearing a mask for an extended amount of time, which I was at the zoo. So back to the zoo. Once I was inside of the zoo, I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this. Sarah, I want to go home. Sarah, I want to go home. Sarah, I want to go home. But she was like, Laura, we're already here. We paid for it. Let's see some animals. They only let you go one direction at the zoo. So that's the direction we went, which was towards the polar bears and the seals.
And remember last time they were they were fighting and playing and
And the gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous Arctic fox that I got video of, and it was so cute.
oh yeah, he's right there.
Look at it.
He's so cute. Here we go. This is very hot.
It is very hot. That's the area that we went to. There was a woman there that was not wearing a mask, and she had her children there not wearing masks, and they were not the friendliest of people. They were snide towards us because we were at the zoo wearing masks, and they acted like we were criminals against their children because their children had to see us wearing masks. It was this big thing. It was a little thing, but it was a big thing, like, you know. And no, I don't think that if you're there at the zoo by yourself with people that you live with, I don't think you need to wear your mask the whole time. However, Sarah and I live in different households, and we were coming very close to each other at certain times. So it just made sense for us to be wearing our masks to protect each other, as well as the people around us, because we weren't always alone. We weren't always alone. There was always at least like one family somewhere nearby. Even if they were like 10 feet away, they were still nearby. So anytime we were around other people or within 6 feet of each other, of course we had our masks on. The only time that we didn't have them on is if we were eating or drinking and we were definitely standing still with our backs to the trail anytime that we did that, or if we were taking a breather where we stopped, turned our backs to the trails, and had our masks off, but if we heard someone approaching, we'd put it right back on. Very simple. But for the most part, families stayed to themselves. There was only one family that did not stay to themselves, and they were constantly in our way. They were a family wearing tie-dyed shirts, and you could tell that the teenage boys that were with them were just hitting that teenage stage, like that awkward, I just got tall but my sister's still small kind of phase. And they bumbled over everything, like they weren't used to their own height yet. And that's understandable, but they literally bumbled into every exhibit for like 3 or 4 exhibits. And it was really hard to social distance from them because they were just everywhere all at once. There was 6 of them. One of them even grabbed Sarah's arm at one point. Like, it was like they didn't have a clue that there was a pandemic happening. A few things that I didn't really care for at the zoo was that they didn't have people enforcing social distancing once you were inside. They didn't have anyone that, like, for example, if you were looking at the gorillas, no one was standing there saying, keep 6 feet apart, don't group together. And that didn't really work out well. Tiny little signs, tiny little markings everywhere, your 6-foot markers, like, you had to be aware to notice them. So, indoor exhibits were closed anyway because of the virus, and the only thing I was really sad about with that happening was 2 things. You didn't get to go to the butterfly garden. The butterfly garden was closed, but I did see it. But you also didn't get to see the bats. And even though you don't really see the bats when you go to see the bats, it's still a thrill knowing that you're in the same room as bats. So, that was a little sad. There were a lot of open exhibits, and all the cats were out.
Oh, yeah. He's adorable. So adorable. I think you want some water.
It's the size of a house cat. It's adorable. Here it is. Ocelot. Sand cat.
Oh, yeah, the sand cats. They're closed.
You can buckle this around my waist.
All the cats were out. We got to see the lions. The lions were so cool. They're big cats. They would watch the people for a while, and then they'd get distracted by a leaf. And then they'd watch the people for a while, and then they'd get distracted by a leaf. It was just the cutest thing.
You're a lazy bum. Yeah, you're a lazy bum. Just like my kitties.
And there's actually a sign that says, your child is not part of the lion's diet, watch them. Which was so funny to me, so funny to me. So all the heat-loving animals were out, the indoor exhibits were closed, and all the cold-loving animals were nowhere to be seen. All of the water fountains, all of the sculptures, and all of the interactive places were completely shut off, blocked off. They had bags over sculptures and lots of things to deter you from touching things. All high-touch surfaces were covered. No high touching, no touching anywhere. There's usually like this giant buffalo that kids climb on top of and get their picture made on. Even that was blocked off.
We got a water refill station. Oh. That's nice. The child just put his face on it, so I won't be partaking.
All the play areas were blocked off. Like, there were a lot of interactive things that were not active. There was actually a decided lack of hand sanitizer throughout the park. I expected to see hand sanitizer stations everywhere, but I saw maybe 5, and there were no hand washing stations. The only place that you could wash your hands is at the restrooms, which were smack dab in the middle of the park. When you did see hand sanitizing stations, it was either a pump or you had to push it yourself, which I didn't like. I didn't like that at all. I was very happy to have my own hand sanitizer because of that. Where the restrooms are in the middle of the park, the zoo, the park, they also have food vendors, and there's food vendors near the butterfly exhibit as well. And all of the food vendors wore masks, all the food vendors had gloves on. they were taking precautions. And on a normal day, they have plexiglass in front of them. So that didn't change, but it was nice to see. Of course, it's a zoo, so kids still touched things. There were fingerprints and mouth prints all over the glass. Very, very concerning, but not my problem. I was a little concerned that they had the misters going, because I know at some parks they don't have the misters going because it creates sort of like an aerosol environment. So maybe they're just like, it's a hot day, you might want to just cool off for a second, just hold your breath when you go through. All of the staff did wear masks, which I was very, very, very happy to see. They had the cutest masks. They were so cute, in fact, that Sarah and I went to the gift shop and asked if they were selling the masks that the workers were wearing, because they were so adorable. One of the tram workers was even wearing a green warthog mask, and it looked a lot like the pig from Angry Birds. Like, it was just so super cute, and I wanted it. I really wanted that mask, but they weren't selling it. They weren't selling those. Those were made specifically for zoo staff. I guess so you can identify who is zoo staff. But super cute masks. They were limiting the amount of people into the gift shop. I should note that as well. They did still have the photographer out. The photographer that catches you when you first walk in and then catches you when you're walking out.
Right over there. Big smile. I know, it's horrible. I say it anyway. And what's worse is we do it anyways. Yeah. No, I'm sure, people be walking by and I'm like cheesing, under here, like, hey, and I'm like, they can't see. No one can see. Yeah.
I can see your eyes.
Yeah, a little bit. My eyes closed completely when I smile. Yeah.
Our picture just didn't turn out cute. If it had, we probably would have gotten it. Side note with that though, if you ever see a photographer at a park, whether it be a water park, an amusement park, a zoo, anything like that, please get your picture taken. Like, please just put a pin in it, remember that, because sometimes they have a quota, and sometimes their quota is just with how many pictures they take. Not necessarily how many are sold, just with how many pictures they take. So please just take that extra 5 seconds, get your picture taken, and go on with your day. So as far as the worst touch zones, I would say the glass where the kids were touching and licking and putting everything on them, and the tram. The tram was very high touch because the seats were very tiny and you have to squeeze into a tiny space to be able to sit down on the tram. But they were cleaning the tram after every turn. So from one point to the next, they would clean all the seats, and they would section it off where if you were in this row and this row was marked off and then the next row somebody was in it, they'd switch it off. So the row that was empty before was now the open one, and the one that the person had just sat in was closed. I guess it was so that the sanitizer would have time to air out in between goes, which kind of reminds me of Disney and the way that it's operating right now. But with Disney, they do every 2 hours they disinfect the seats, which, ugh. But with this, it was a little bit more efficient because they would disinfect the seats, switch it out, and then next go around, disinfect those seats, switch it out. So I really liked the way they were doing that. It seemed very, very nice. But you also have the option of not taking the tram and just walking back. It is 10 miles though. It's 5 miles from North America to Africa, and then back from Africa to North America again. So it's a walk, but if you want to stay away from the tram, it's an option. I did really enjoy seeing the other exhibits though. Now that we've gotten through all the social distancing things, let me just talk about the zoo experience as a whole. I loved seeing the animals. I loved seeing the foxes, the seals. They did have the baboons blocked off because North Carolina has the largest baboon population at our zoo. It's sort of like a baboon reservoir kind of thing. And because we have so many, they're expanding the baboon enclosures. So that part was completely blocked off. It looks like it's going to be a whole mile or two of just baboon things, which is going to be really, really cool. You might have seen from my video last year, they already had so much room, but now they're going to have even more. Of course, one of my favorite animals, the elephants. We got to see an elephant so close up. And it was so pretty. Another one of my favorite animals is a zebra, and we got to see the zebra in the enclosure with an ostrich and a giraffe. And we got to see the giraffe eating, and that was so awesome. We also got to see crocodiles, which was something that I didn't get to see before. Crocodiles or alligators. I don't remember which one it was. Maybe I can correct myself down here, but we got to see a big chomp chomp, and it was super cute. But like I mentioned before, the desert area was closed off, so I didn't get to see the owls, didn't get to see the snakes and the lizards and the bats. The otter exhibit was also closed, and they weren't outside. But we did get to see warthogs, and warthogs are super cute but super stinky, so we didn't stick around very long. But yeah, overall, really, 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 really cute animals, but not a lot of people paying attention to social distancing markers, not a lot of people paying attention to other people. If I had to rate the zoo on how safe I felt, it would probably be on a scale of 1 being not safe at all and 10 being super safe. I'd say it was like a 6? A 6. Like, it wasn't staying home and getting takeout kind of safe, but it wasn't like I feel uncomfy safe. It was more I feel mildly uncomfy, so maybe like a 5. It was sort of in the middle. I didn't feel like I was crowded. I didn't feel like I was in any danger. I didn't feel like anyone was purposefully trying to get near me. It was still too people-y for me. All in all, it wasn't terrible. I'd go back. I'd wear my mask. I'd walk the zoo. I'd keep away from people, and I'd do exactly like I did this past time with all of my stuff and enjoy myself. But cases are going up real high, and North Carolina's not in a good place right now, so probably won't be going anywhere except to get takeout for a while. So that was my experience with the outside. I hope it was informative, especially if you live in North Carolina or live close to North Carolina and would consider coming to the zoo. So for the comments down below, I want you to tell me what your favorite zoo animal is. I probably asked that in my birthday video last year, but I want to know again. And maybe there are different little ghosts watching this time. So let me know down in the comments what your favorite zoo animal is. And tell me if you would have felt safe. Like, from the footage and the information that I gave you, would you have felt safe going? It'd be a fun experience, especially if you have really, really bored kids. Because in North Carolina, our students aren't going back until September. So, if that. So, you know, you might just need an educational field trip, and the zoo is definitely one of those. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you come around again soon. Say bye. Bye.